Hey, I'm Dr. David Crozy, and I'm here with my trusty sidekick Sage, and I'm ready to share with you the most important thing that you need in your practice. And so I want to start with a little example story. So let's imagine that on the same weekend, two new restaurants open within a few blocks of your office. So you got a Mexican restaurant, and then another block down you've got an Italian restaurant. And let's imagine that from that first weekend, the Mexican restaurant, every time you drive by, Friday, Saturday night, their parking lot is slammed, and you actually see people waiting outside the restaurant to get in. Then you drive that other block down, and you see the Italian restaurant, and there's just this handful of cars. It looks mostly dead. And so after a couple weeks of driving by these two restaurants, you're like, man, I gotta go check out that Mexican restaurant. It is just so busy. So you take your wife down there, the place is just hopping, you have to wait outside for 20 minutes, but you get in there, the food is super fresh, you see a handful of your friends in there, drink some tequila and some margaritas, just have a blast. And so then, you know, the next couple days at work, you're telling everybody, you gotta check out that Mexican restaurant. I mean, it's like the happening place to be. And let's say then another week goes by and you're like, well, we should try the Italian restaurant. You know, it is in our neighborhood, I drive by it all the time. So you go in there on a Friday night and there's like one other couple in the place, and you get your food and it's a little bit wilted. It feels like it's not as fresh, which you're kind of like, oh, I'm not surprised because it's not very busy. So ultimately, you know, that Mexican restaurant becomes your favorite, the Italian restaurant goes out of business. So the question for you is, what did the Mexican restaurant have that the Italian restaurant didn't? The answer is momentum. The single most important thing that you always want to have in your practice is a positive momentum. You want to be going the right direction with your practice. And so let's say that the Mexican restaurant becomes your favorite restaurant. You start going there on a regular basis and you get to know the owner a bit and ultimately say, how did you get that practice? How did you get your Mexican restaurant so busy from day one? And the Mexican guy kind of leans in and he says, well, I'll tell you a secret. He said, I talked to everybody I knew in town. And I told them that if they would come in on a Friday or Saturday night for the first month, that I would give them half price on all the food. And then I told them that if they ended up waiting outside, that I'd actually give each person that waited outside for a few minutes a free drink. And he said, that's how I got momentum going. Now my question for you is, if this is now your favorite restaurant, you love going there, you respect that owner, are you going to care that that's how they built momentum? And personally, I wouldn't. I would think that person is a genius. You know, they knew that momentum was the most important thing, and they did what it took to get momentum going. And so in your practice, you got to look for opportunities to build momentum. So my top thing, the top way that I grow my practice is through lunch and learns. And so one way that I did that, on January 3rd and 4th of this year, we went out and did 2 lunch and learns at schools. And so we went to the first school. We talked to 33 teachers and staff, and we came away with 20 new patient appointments. It was one of the most successful lunch and learns we've ever done. Then the next day we went to this school. This school we've been to like 3 or 4 times over the last few years. So we got a smaller crowd, 13 people, walked away with 3 new patient appointments. And so 23 new patient appointments in 2 days. It was awesome. Now in the mail, we got this little note from the first school where they thanked us for coming in and said that they really enjoyed our talk and the meal that we brought. And so I could have just put this up on my wall at my office, but what I did was I created a whole flyer specifically for schools, and I asked my wellness programs manager, Sherry, to start reaching out to all the schools in our area and ask if we could come in and either provide a lunch and learn or do what we call a refreshing lunch. As a result of us looking for momentum, trying to build on the success that we already had, we now have 2 additional, we're going to do refreshing lunches for these 2 schools coming up in the next, before the end of March. And so that's the idea, is that if you have success, you got to look at every success you have and say, how can I take that success and build on it? So let's talk about some ways that you can build momentum in your practice. So first off, the most important thing is that you have to cluster book. Let's say that you just started your practice and you've only got like 5 patients coming in some days. It can be tempting to let them schedule wherever they want. But I'm going to tell you, if you have 5 patients coming in a day, you should see 2 at 8 and like 8:05. Those people should see each other And then at 5 o'clock, you should see 3 between 5 and 5:15 or 5 and 5:30. You do want to do that because you want to be efficient with your time. And then also, remember that emotion. If you walk into a restaurant on a Friday night and you only see one other couple there, there's this feeling of unease that this place, you're making a bad decision and you're not going to feel confident to recommend the restaurant to other people. And so the deal with cluster booking, it can be tempting, especially if you're a new doctor, to think, well, I don't want to, let's say that you're a new doctor and you're actually doing everything in your office yourself, which I was in that situation for 8 months. I did everything in the office. It can be tempting to say, well, I don't want somebody to walk in and I'm back with a patient. That wouldn't be professional. But I'm telling you, you want new patients to your office. You want your patients to see other patients. So they'd rather wait for a little bit, in my opinion, than walk in and only ever be there by themselves, because that's going to make it super hard for them to refer you. Now the second thing is, once you're cluster booking, anytime that you're not actively seeing patients, you need to put on your marketer hat. And that means that you can be reading books on how to be a better marketer. You can be learning online through YouTube and hiring a coach. All those things are great, but you want to transition out of this mindset that, okay, I'm a chiropractor, to no, now I'm somebody that's doing marketing. And so again, in my situation, the most effective thing that I've found for marketing has always been lunch and learns. So if I'm not seeing patients, I need to be thinking about what are businesses in our area that we can reach out to and see if we can come in and do a lunch and learn. If you don't have any experience doing lunch and learns, the way that you would do that, first you want to start your program is you're going to talk to your close friends or maybe even a family member that have a business and ask if you can come in and do a lunch and learn for them. It might be 3 people in the room, but ultimately what you want to walk away with is a testimonial. And then you put that in your flyer and you're going to reach out to, let's say that you're a part of a BNI or a Chamber of Commerce and you have some friend businesses there. Then you just go to them and you say, hey, we're starting to do lunch and learns. Can I just come and do one for you guys? I'll promise it'll be a great experience. We'll bring in this great lunch, and then ideally you can just give me a quick testimonial that we can then go and reach out to other businesses. And so you could do that lunch and learn for the next step up, the BNI members or your Chamber of Commerce buddies. You get a couple of those, and pretty soon you've got this momentum where you can go and reach out to the company down the road that has 300 employees and get in there. And so that really works. The other thing is just, when you got that marketing hat on, you've got to be networking. You've got to be meeting new people. And so you can do actual organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, the BNI, the Lions Clubs, all the things like that. But ultimately, what I personally found most effective is to get involved in things that you actually feel passionate about. So ultimately, my main networking has been an outdoor club that I got involved in. Over the years, a lot of the people in there have come in as patients. And then I'm also super involved in the cycling community. So anybody that bikes here in Des Moines is a friend. And ultimately, a lot of them have come in as patients. And so it's just, in my opinion, the best type of networking is where you are actively interested in being involved in what you're doing, and the friendships come naturally. And then everybody would like to go to a chiropractor who there's friends. So that's my recommendation for networking. The next piece of advice is to take each patient's success and try to make it go exponential. So first off, if a patient comes in and they're getting great results, then you've got to be in the mindset of asking for them to write a review or record a quick video review or recommendation for your services. And I know that can be kind of tough, but that's how you take one patient's success and you make it multiple. And the last thing is that when a patient is happy with your office, you want to be talking to them about inviting their family or their friends to come in as patients. And I'll be honest with you, I'm bad at this, at asking patients to refer in their friends and family. I've never wanted to seem pushy, but I think it helps to have some examples that can help to put you in the right perspective when it comes to asking your patients to refer in their friends and family. So let's imagine that you just moved to a new town and you go to a dentist, and the dentist, everything's going great, and the dentist sees on your form that you have a wife and kid. You told them that you just moved to town, and they say, oh, well, where do your wife and child go to the dentist? And you say, well, honestly, they haven't found one either. And then the person at the dentist office says, well, do they have any issues going on? And you say, yeah, actually my wife, she's been complaining of this zing in her tooth, but she's kind of nervous about going to the dentist and she's nervous about trying new places. You know, a good person at the dentist would say, well, you know, we're very great with timid people. We really hold their hand. And so I'd recommend that we find a time to get your wife in. Can I ask Sherry at the front desk to get a time reserved for your wife at the end of the visit? I mean, that person at the dentist office isn't being pushy. They're just being a good dental employee, and that's the kind of mindset that you need to have. Let's say that you tell the person you're at the dentist and you say, yeah, we just adopted a new kid. She's from Guatemala. And the person at the dentist says, oh, you know, has she had dental care throughout her life? And the person sitting at the dentist office says, no, she's never actually been in for a dental checkup. We asked her about that. You know, a good dental employee would say, well, we'd recommend that she get checked, obviously, and we can find out how things are going, find out if we need to take care of anything. That's not pushy. And so in the same way, when somebody's in my office, you know, they seem to be pleased with their office. It shouldn't be uncomfortable. It shouldn't be awkward to say, oh, you know, where do your wife and kids go to the chiropractor? And if they say, well, you know, they don't, then the next question can be, well, do they have any issues that you think they might need to get in to see a chiropractor for? And that person, if they say, you know, my wife has this back pain, it's been given her really sharp pain, it flares up every couple months really bad, you know, a good chiropractor employee should have the confidence to say, well, I'd recommend that we get her checked out and see how she's doing. And then if you're talking about a kid, if you're talking about a kid and they say, yeah, my kid's never been checked out, if you believe in chiropractic, if you believe in the power of the spine to influence a person's life, having a healthy spine is essential to be active, and it enables the brain to get clear messages through to the body, keep everything working as well as possible. If somebody says that their kids have never been in for a checkup, then just spend a little bit and say, you know, well, I'd recommend that we get your kids in. In my world, it's super frustrating when we see a kid or young adult and they've got a major problem going on and I say, I wish I would have seen this person a few years ago. So if you bring your 13-year-old in, we can make sure that they don't have any scoliosis. We can check the spine out and see if everything seems to be working right. And then at the very least, I really coach kids on working on poor posture. So I'll teach them the importance of poor posture, and quite frankly, I'll tell your kid, I'll promise them the world if they'll stand up straight. So I'll tell them they'll get hit on a bunch by the boys or girls in their class if they stand up proud and look super confident all the time. And so, you know, that's wholehearted. Any kid that comes into my office, whether they're a patient or not, I give a posture sermon that I know is effective because I've seen kids that I influence come in and they stand up tall. I congratulate them. I'm proud of them. So this is just being a good chiropractor. So again, with the right attitude, the attitude that you're trying to help people be healthier, asking your patients to refer in their friends or family should not be awkward. It's just you caring about the health of their friends and family. So if you've been watching this and you're like, yeah, that is what I need. My practice has a negative momentum, it's slowing down, or it's just barely limping along, and I want to get momentum going the right way, I encourage you to watch the video over at 20callsperweek.com that tells you how to get started with the Lunch and Learn or Health Fair marketing program. And if you'd like to get started with that, just reach out to me via message, and we'll talk about what it takes to get started, to get you started in the course, and I'll be there coaching you and giving you advice on how to get momentum going through your Lunch and Learn and Health Fair marketing program. So thanks for listening today. Again, my name is David Crozy. This is my dog Sage. And yeah, let's start this week right. Let's get momentum going in your practice.